ultimately, like I would love it if the world could just focus 100% on what they want to do, right? It's like
Hmm.
I don't want to. It's the last piece of freedom, right? That we don't have is like working for somebody else, doing a job I hate to like get things
Yeah,
I don't want, or need.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like that just sucks, man. That's like indentured servitude just by a different name. And so I don't know. I just think it'd be cool if we could all just do the shit we wanted to do and get paid for it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It looks like just sort of like what you said, like a consortium of different kind of products and services that your network and you or other people would trust you, and therefore they would sort of trust the networks of other people through you, which
yeah,
is yeah, which is really cool. Like you said,
I don't know, a combination of McKinsey and Apple and Disney.
yeah,
you know, like
yeah,
that'd be fucking sweet. I just call it Santa's workshop. That's really what I want to build. Just want to build Santa's workshop.
yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
How about you guys
I
though?
love it.
Are you all how are you doing?
Well, man, I feel like honestly, I feel like I'm at like probably on the top of my game as far as how I feel and having the kids here and the work that I'm doing and the content I'm producing. And I think the focus of I feel like this sort of spiritual development with people to really spring growth, sort of more of an inward development that overflows into growth that you see externally. But I find usually people want external growth, and then they try and come back and then they want inward growth. And
Yeah.
so I feel like there's something to it. There's something there. I mean, I feel at peace. I feel like you know all these levels are really high for me. I just I think I mentioned before. I just got all these different sort of lines in the water and working on a course, and just kind of just working out and see which thing starts to hit. So
It. That's great, man. I mean, that's the dream right there. You
yeah,
feel
it
good about
is.
what you're
It
doing
is.
and
You know, you're doing the stuff that you love. You feel like you're created to do. I wake up, I'm like, man, this is phenomenal. But I also feel like too, there's this quote that I love from Mark Cuban in one of his books, and he's like, in business, he goes, all it takes is one, man. It just takes one. And I've just sort of kind of been holding on to just kind of how that works. It's like maybe it's one relationship, maybe it's one connection, maybe it's one client, that sort of springboards it, any of those sorts of things. So I feel like I'm in that I'm in that zone. And that it's one of those things with time. It's being patient with um where I'm at in the process and what I'm building, and that it's ready to go.
yeah. Yeah, it does. It just takes time. You just got to keep shipping. That's it.
Yeah,
That's all it is. And
yeah,
compounds. It's just that compounding just doesn't seem like a lot in the beginning, but the percentage is
yeah,
there. And over time that the percentage takes over. And
yeah. And I feel like too, man, like, I mean, obviously, I've been in the church game for a long, long time, but I feel like what I love about personal development and what I love about um, spirituality, that I'm just finding more and more of an intersect there. And that's where, like, I was just kind of sending that stuff over to you, like taking 7 habits of highly effective people and turning it into a devotional, taking As a Man Thinketh, a classic by James Allen, and, making it a devotional.
right.
Um, like taking I've got the Four Agreements, that popular book,
Mhm.
doing that. It's coming out next month, to do that. I'm working on Think and Grow Rich, except I'm going to call it Think and Grow Wise. And, so, and it's not cheeseball stuff. It's like, I feel good about it. I feel the work. Like I said, it's that part is building. And I feel like when I talk with people, it's at a really different level than where these preachers come from, because it's like this remix of preacher and like self-development. So
Mhm.
it's essentially like biblical self-development, that is in, I went through, read all the mystic books, went through the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Torah, the Tao, shredded them all apart, and was like, man, like if I was going to niche this thing down, I'm going to niche it to the Bible, because that's what I know. And that's what a lot of these, things revert to.
Mhm.
So that's sort of the space that I'm in. But yeah, I'm pretty hopeful, and I feel good about it. I feel like I'm at the blackjack table, and I've got a stack of money, and I just got to last through the hand. You gotta, like, I've just got to keep. Don't get in too heavy. Just keep playing your hands, and eventually it's gonna start swinging the other way.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you. I think the crossovers always work really well. And you obviously have gigantic market size with Christianity and the experience, so that's working in your favor. And then that's the
Yeah,
thing with the thing I'm doing, which is like just it's like 50-50, you know? It's like client work and your own thing. And
hmm
then you basically
hmm
have runway forever until your own thing can self-fund it.
yeah,
And then you just keep
yeah,
investing in that over and over again. So
yeah,
it's like, fuck. I mean, if I ever get to the point where I just have to go work at McDonald's, I'll just go do that, and like until I can buy a new computer. Like if I ever end up homeless on my ass, like that's the plan. Work at
yeah,
McDonald's, make enough money to buy a computer, use that
yeah.
as the next stepstone. So it's like that's all it is, you know? It's like
Yeah,
you'll know how to
yeah.
play it, you'll know how to read it. But yeah,
I
it's just keep shipping. The
I
problem that I
feel
can't get around is like
yeah.
content right now is just such a highly competitive, saturated, noisy space that
Wait,
it
which is
content on the internet,
content? Yes,
on the social
yes, yes,
networks. So that's
yes.
the thing I'm trying to figure out because the old adage is you go where there's no competition and you win everybody.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah,
I mean, maybe this helps you, but it's like you go to a trade show where everyone's selling guns and you sell water because they're
yeah,
thirsty and walking around. You know, I mean, I don't know, that's a really bad analogy, but it's like you
yeah,
go to some other trade show that is close to what you're doing,
yeah,
and you're the only game in town, and you just have a booth there, and then you just suck up all of it.
yeah.
So I don't know. It's just like you got to find a place where there's no competition.
hmm Yeah, where you're the odd one out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I felt that a little bit. I'm in this Jay Shetty, um, who I did my coaching, and we have a group, and so in there, I used to kind of be like nervous about it, but then I was like, screw it. I was like, look, because I'm trying to get research in for this course, and so I was like, look, I'm a Christian growth coach. If any of you, are Christians or in a business, Christian, because I also feel like, Sean, that um, I feel like there's guys with a shit ton of money that actually if they want to have a coach, they want to have a Christian guy that's not a cheese ball. And like I know there's a lot of Christian guys that have a truck ton of money that would want to invest in, that type of space. Say, look, I want a guy, I want a coach, I want to, I'm doing that already. I want to find one, this type of guy. So I'm exploring that as well, because some of these guys I'm friends with, they're all in these different masterminds, and I'm explaining to them, I'm like, look, guys, like the spiritual side is like the weakest side of what you guys are all talking about. I know you want to make money, you want to, crush it, you want to da 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 da. I get it, yeah, great. But I was like, this spiritual inner peace, like alignment to actually what you're designed to do in life, it
Right.
may not actually be that. Like, you could still make a truck ton of money, but it might be over here because it's something that you just have forgotten about, or it's something that you just, and you have all these problems, all these issues, all these things, simply because you won't go back on the inside and invest. Like, what I'm saying is, like, get a six pack spiritually, like you would get a six pack, physically. Like,
Mhm.
what does that look like to you? What does that take? Right? It takes effort. It takes, like, discipline, it takes accountability, it takes, right? So all that stuff. So that's sort of like, anyway, that was a long tangent to say, yeah, I'm definitely love that idea that you're saying with, going into those groups where you're the minority.
Mhm.
That's a great idea. It's a great thought, man. Really great thought.
Yeah. Who am
Yeah,
I? The
totally.
the yeah, the hardest journey any human makes is into their mind, right? So
Yeah.
like
It's all,
Goggins and mental toughness,
dude. Goggins,
like he's
my
crazy,
man.
but
He's
he
crazy,
carved out a brand, man. Like there's
dude.
one, like there's one dude that insane,
Yeah,
Goggins, and all he did was just something insane, and then people talked about it because it's like I could
yeah,
never do that.
yeah,
So you're on a pedestal now.
yeah. Totally, totally. Just replicated it. Yeah, yeah. I love that. Yeah, the most expensive real estate is your mind. So you got to figure out who owns it, who you're renting it out to.
Yeah, the subconscious stuff is super interesting too, like how all the
Yeah.
programming and priming you're
Hmm.
letting that you don't even know that's shaping who you are, how you feel, the
Yeah.
decisions you make. That's super scary. So how
Yeah.
do you build defense mechanisms to make sure you stay true to who you actually are and program your own subconscious correctly? Otherwise, the
Yeah.
world does. And
That's
then
right.
you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. It's the awareness of your inputs, to figure out what, the outputs are going to be. Like you said, if your feelings are all, the ancestors of your feelings are all thoughts, so being able to check the inputs, just like you plug in your headphones into a headphone jack or whatever, whatever
Mhm.
you're plugging into is going to be what's coming out. And yeah, I love that stuff too, man. Like but I feel like what I've discovered is that all that stuff that I love that gets into, like, it's almost like mysticism. But what I do is I remix it into the scriptures because it all fits in there. And so, I'm talking manifestation, I'm talking like subconscious, I'm talking, you know, uh, affirmations, all that energy, it's all in there. And, so that's how I bring that out. And I think it's people are kind of like, whoa, like I didn't, they're, most Christians are scared of that stuff.
You know what's interesting that I think both you and I are circling around, but it didn't quite hit me until right now. Um,
Yeah.
it's this idea of social media programming your mind, and people kind of
Yes.
talk about it, and like just the news media and people and all of that. Um,
Yeah.
Here's the question: name the website or app you go to that programs your mind the way you want it to, where you're in control.
Hmm.
Doesn't flipping exist.
Doesn't exist. No.
Doesn't exist. And here's the thing, right? Like you and I are both creating content, so other people are too, but there's no like filter mechanism, right? Like maybe I
Yeah.
want to like dial up spirituality and Christianity. I mean, the thing that I liked about what you said that resonated really well is I looked at every spiritual text.
Yeah.
I unpacked it.
Yeah.
Here's the things that are similar, here's the things that are different. I was T-shaped and I went deep in Christianity. I mean, this reminds me of this book, The Hermetica. I don't know if I shared this with you or you've read it. It's really interesting.
No.
I stumbled upon this book in the German village in Columbus, Ohio, in an old bookstore, and I put it on my website in the library. I'll send you a link to it.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
fascinating because basically these researchers did almost that, and they found this text like in ancient Egypt or something that they believe was the original precursor upon which all the other spiritual texts like took
Mhm.
like principles, lessons, and then there's some really interesting stuff where it like overlaps with science and like
Mhm.
the concept of the ether and sort of like dark energy, dark matter. And
Yeah.
so it was one of the most interesting, like random books I read because it brought like everything together as a new potential foundational layer. But anyways,
Yeah.
back to this idea is like this is super interesting, right? So imagine you just had like you, me, I don't know, 100 other people all making their content with the
Yeah.
right incentive in mind, which is like we're here to like help people and
Yeah.
ourselves and not just
Yeah.
do like horrible clickbait and you know like I'm just trying to sell ad space, i.e.
Right.
social media advertising, a lot of the blogs, whatever.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
I just feel like there's the world is moving in that direction. It's gonna
Yeah.
happen. And it's starting to happen on TikTok. I see some of this content moving in this direction. Like Gary
Yeah.
Vee is starting to preach the same thing. Like Goggins is starting to preach the same thing. It's just different. It's like the dials and the knobs are tuned slightly different, but the
Hmm.
underlying aspect of all of this is exactly the same. So why couldn't you just put a group of people together that, is making that sort of thing? um and then you just have a different user interface for the person to like dial up or down whatever they're into that day, but then they're confident
Yeah.
in the fact that they're what's programming in their subconscious is positive and good change for them. um,
Hmm.
and it's just the content that they find interesting that I think
Yeah.
break through the noise and like take over social, because I'm sick of just looking at garbage, Karens and
Yeah.
garbage and
Yes,
like self
bro.
promotion and like I hate it.
It's exhausting.
It is.
Yeah. It's exhausting. Um, Even when I'm on, I mean, what I've done lately is I don't really go on and post anymore. I let these, what I found is like create more IP and then people will find you. But it's like, so I even put one on there. It's like a 3 day, it's called like your coach, your Bible, your purpose. And it's long as heck, bro. Like the lady literally said to me, this is too long. And I was like, I don't care. I wanted 3 days. I don't care if people finish it. I want to be able
Yeah.
to reference it and
Yeah.
say, look, if you're serious about changing your life with the scriptures, you take these 3 days and I can so the thing for me with it as well is the goal is to also speak at churches and whatnot. And then when I'm there, I can reference all of these devotionals that I have in apps. And then that sort of kind of drives traffic again to say, holy cow, like this guy's giving us these micro blueprints of like what to do, da 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 da. So that's why I went so heavy there. But like I said, with social, that ends up bringing people to like my socials to where it's like, and then what I started to do for myself because people were like, "You need to get an email list," and I was like, "Man, I don't even read emails. I like maybe one email,
Yeah.
on an email list. I just don't do it.
Yeah.
I know like what it does." And so I started a Telegram group because a spiritual accountability Telegram group because for me, I want every day to check in spiritually on what I'm reading. And I find that one, people aren't accountable. Two, they don't have somebody to be accountable with, or they're scared, or they don't have a group, or whatever. And so I just said, look, if you want to join this, this is my email list. So I have them click on and they join the list and where I check in every day. What are you reading? What are you doing? What are you challenged by? What's your spirituality level this week? Right. So that's how I got around to start collecting emails. And that to me has been like the biggest breath of fresh air. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't have to create a freaking weekly
Yeah.
BS, buy this.
Yeah.
You can see what I do. This is what I read. This is what I'm talking about. You can see my fit. And man, like it's just been that's what I mean. I feel like I'm in a really strong base, and it's just a matter of time before, I'll be speaking on stages, connecting people with devotionals, getting this Telegram group into the thousands, having courses, around that to where I can guide people through those one-on-ones at a super high level, and starting to work with these like elite Christian guys that are like, man, I just wish I had a Christian coach that could, that wasn't just full of shit.
Yep. No, I think, I'm so there with you. I think the key word that comes to mind is just authenticity, like true to self.
Yeah.
Because I'm not
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
sell you
Yeah.
anything. I just have this like there's this weird energy of creation that's natural and true that just like comes out of me, and I just want to share it with you. And
Mm.
if you
Mhm.
vibe with it, heck yeah, let's vibe together. If not,
Yeah.
no biggie. And that because
Yeah.
I'm the same way with email, man. Like I've had on my to-do list to like start up another email newsletter, send out, like I've even pulled a bunch of emails and like
Yeah.
try to get the CRM together. And I literally
Yeah.
cannot force myself
I
to
couldn't either,
just
dude.
send an email to people like a list because it just doesn't feel right. And I'm
Yeah.
so with you on that. And like I've been
Yeah.
beating myself up, like, man, come on. Like David Goggins,
Yeah.
get over the hump. People
Yeah.
people need your email. And I'm like, no, they don't. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to read your damn email. But like
No,
it's
they don't.
different when it's vibing, right? Because then it's
Yeah.
like I'm waiting for that new content drop because like I want to hear this insight, or I want this like accountability, or like here's this thing that I couldn't get over, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
struggling with this
Yeah.
piece. I didn't understand this piece. Like how do I do this? And then this last piece, and this gets to the whole like how do you monetize media anymore on the internet because
Yeah.
everything wants to be free.
Yeah.
There's this new business model. It's not really new. I mean, nothing's new with business models, but basically, I think where this is trending, all software is going to be free, and you
Okay.
will only take a transaction fee on um, an exchange of value. So, for example, imagine SaaS apps, right? Where like HubSpot, whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Like Google Workspace, you pay
Yeah.
15 bucks a month. Eventually it's going to be free, and then they just take a percentage of like your invoice. So I don't know how this
Yes.
plays in content because the problem is like you have to gate everything in order to monetize it, and it doesn't want to be
Yeah.
gated. Information wants to be free, and people want to trust you. And then the other problem with like all these like I don't know, like get on stage, teach you things. Like I'm pushing my BHS down your throat, and like even the course thing. I'm reading now with everybody. They're just getting burnt out of like everyone's
Yeah.
got a course, and here's how you like
Everyone's got a course.
can make money on the internet, and it's like there's a million of them now. So
Yeah.
I think the real unlock for this whole thing and like how to get the investment flywheel going is it's just a different business model, right? So like
Mm.
how do you and even like going back to the hourly rate thing, like that doesn't scale because you've only got so many hours in the day. I've only got so many hours in the day, which means you
Yeah.
have to create the content that works for everybody. And then the question is like, how do they then transact with that content where you just take a small piece of when they get value and they're okay to do it,
Yeah.
right? So it's like
Yeah.
I mean, the old analogy is like hedge funds. I manage billions of dollars and I take a 2% fee, and you don't care
Hmm.
because I made you, another 100 million tomorrow. So what's like 2 million? And
Right.
like it doesn't matter. So, if the percentage is small enough, 1%, whatever, then it's just volume game. But like that's
Hmm.
the piece I haven't figured out on content either. I feel like if we figured that piece out, then it's just like amazing because people are getting a ton of value. They already see and experience the value. They're paying a
Hmm.
small amount on a transaction to you, and you're got your own livelihood. You take care of your family, can invest more in content. That benefits the community and the viewer. So there's something there.
Hmm.
I don't know
Hmm.
what it is yet, but I know that the next SaaS is going to be just embedded
Hmm.
finance where you take a transaction fee. And that's how everybody's going to
Yeah.
make money on the future. So it's like you have to do these embedded SaaS companies like Stripe and Circle,
Yeah.
Unit, and everybody else.
Yeah. 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 It's fascinating. Um, yeah, it's fascinating. I do say the idea I had while you were just saying that with the email thing was, your sometimes your things that you do, like where you're walking and talking and giving those analogies and whatnot.
Mhm.
Something could be as simple as that, is where you're saying, hey, let's sit, and that's what I love on Telegram is I'll go on there in the morning and I'll just, say something for a minute and, check in with what I'm reading. And to me, it's not a burden because like I genuinely love helping people and I love
Yeah.
to help people get accountable. So and to see them win, people are telling me that, they just got a new job or they're, praying for this and these things are going, so that stuff to me is like, gas in my tank.
Yeah.
But for someone like you, where it's like maybe it's a tech thing or whatever, just say, hey, come, for a morning walk with me, and let debrief or whatever it may be on different ideas or thoughts, because then your email is like actually people that get to know you, like you, trust you, want to build with you. You know?
Yeah. It's so true. It's like one-to-one relationships at scale. I mean, it's like
Yeah,
this
yeah,
it's this whole idea around like the community that all the tech companies push, but it's just these small world networks. It's like you, me, Jeff, right? Like,
hmm,
like Chad, etc. It's like these
yeah,
weird relationships that develop over many, many years. And you kind of
yeah,
forget where they started, but they
yeah,
just, it's just like,
yeah,
but you still manage to like weirdly, we've managed to stay in touch since like the Evelite day, like over a decade,
yeah, yeah,
and multiple times a year, even like couple months, like across many different cities, life
yeah,
changes. Like, what is that? That's weird. Like that shouldn't.
yeah.
That's actually unnatural. It's
Yeah,
actually
the
unnatural. But yet it
the
was completely
synchronicity.
organic. It was completely organic.
Totally.
So how does that happen? I don't know.
Well, it's for a reason, buddy.
Oh boy.
For a
Well,
reason, man.
it's Friday. Is little man?
Yeah, man. I'm about to pick him up, but yeah, it was. I just figured, man, if I got you on the phone, I'm gonna talk to you. So,
Yeah. We
um,
just did it.
that's
We
what
did it. We did the pod,
you're
man.
like you're too smart to not just you know be like, oh, I'll do it again. But I just, I love your thinking. I love your thoughts. I love just how you go about things. So just even hearing thoughts from this side when you're coming from all these, I thought of you the other day because I was thinking about these. I think it was called like quantum moments in life or something, and the word quantum. I was like, yeah, you know what? Sean actually could probably tell me what quantum is, and would have a really good explanation about it. I'm one day I'll go down that rabbit hole, but I think there is something to it.
Yeah, entanglement. Entanglement is real. It'll be the messaging
Yeah.
platform of the future across star systems. But yeah, I don't,
Hmm.
it's we're all made from carbon and star stuff and all of that. So like why wouldn't our atoms be entangled, right? I mean, you and I could
Yeah.
basically be made of stuff from a well, we're made of stuff from the same dead star. So it makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense that like this idea of reincarnation or like you come back and you're surrounded by the same people over and over
Yeah.
again in life and this wheel of time that just keeps repeating, like expansion, subtraction, like
Yeah.
aggregation, disaggregation, destruction, creation. It's just a giant pendulum that swings back and forth. Like, why? Of course, we're connected, right? Everything's
Yeah.
connected. We
Yeah.
just, human brains like to compartmentalize things to figure them out. But yeah, 100. So,
Yeah.
anyways, thoughts with Jack Handy.
Love it, dude.
All right, brother.
Love it.
Well,
Well,
enjoy
I'll
the
let you
weekend.
roll.
Yeah,
Yeah,
give
you
love to
too,
the
man. I'll
family.
be I'll be praying with you, man, and all your stuff. I know you sometimes brush through it, and I just want you to know I'm feeling with you, and I'll be praying with you, man. And I just think the world of you. So,
Thanks,
I love
man.
you, dude.
Feelings mutual. Love
Yeah,
you too. Thanks for taking some time on a Friday. Yeah.
my pleasure. My pleasure. Anytime, man. Anytime I get to see your face. Love you, brother.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, man.
Peace.
Ciao.
Deuces.
Peace.
Later.